Hey there YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 4 on this Holden WB ute that we've been doing a full respray on. First video, we just got to start on the job and started doing some of the repairs. We also went right up to getting the inside of the tub painted as well. We then moved on to a bit of time-lapse madness where I'd painted all the panels. So we got the tailgate, the doors and the guards and the bonnet and all that, those bolt-on panels painted. Third video took you guys through the base coat stage, and this video here is just going to be clear coat. So it's going to be the 2 coats of clear coat. I'm using my DeVilbiss GTI Pro. This gun I've actually sold since. Ricky from Queensland has got this gun, and he said that he's loving it so far. It's got the T2 air cap on it and a 1.3mm fluid tip. Pretty easy gun to set up, the GTI Pro. I like to run them at full fan when I'm doing clear coat on any normal panel like this. If I'd been doing, say, like a set of wheels or something, you might play around with those settings. But yeah, as far as you go for your average everyday panel, you'd run the full fan and then 25 psi, and then have your fluid set to about 3.5 turns out, give or take. All of those settings, they are really just guidelines. It's not like 100% you have to have them set like that to get the gun to run properly. Things like the environmental conditions and even the materials that you're using will vary those settings, but that's just a good guideline to start from, I guess, for something like this. Yeah, if you're using full high solids or VOC clears, you may find that you might even want to go for the HVLP air cap rather than the T2, which is personally one of my favorite things about the DeVilbiss GTI range, and also Techno as it's known in America, is that you can simply change that gun from LVLP to conventional or HVLP with the change of one air cap. And yeah, that one gun can just about be anything you want it to be. You can spray your base coat 2K clear, and don't worry, I'm getting nothing from DeVilbiss to say this. I think most of you guys already know that. You won't be getting any advertising rammed down your throat when you're watching any Gunman videos. You're just getting the Gunman's honest opinion, and I do try to help people out. All you need to do is look at the comments, and 99% of the time I get back to most of those questions and try and steer people in the right direction. You may have noticed that on the first coat I had you guys on the tripod, and I did edit a lot of that footage down. I actually went to put some of this footage of that first coat up onto my raw channel, and let's just say it was a little bit too raw. My plumber's crack was hanging out and I decided not to put it up. So yeah, I edited it down for this video because I really did want to include it. I actually mainly decided to jump onto this video in front of some of the others because someone on Instagram said, hey man, when are you gonna edit the video up for this old HQ? Because it did definitely come up quite nice. I did put 1 or 2 videos up on my raw channel, but that was just a bit of a look at it. I think it was before and after look at it. So yeah, there is a little bit of shrink back that did end up coming back, mainly through those quarter panels. I made a quick mention to that in a couple of the previous videos. Main reason is because we're painting over acrylic paint and 10 layers of acrylic paint from the 1970s and 80s. So yeah, at the end of the day, we do our best to work within people's budgets, but yeah, short of actually taking all of it off and starting again, which doubles the size of the job. And it's one of those things with a job like this, I can barely even quote it. Knowing what I know now, this was one of our earlier jobs. Knowing what I know now, if someone comes in and said, oh, can you quote me a bare metal respray on this? I'll say, I can't quote you. I simply can't. I can give you a ballpark figure, but I could end up taking all the paint off, and there's like kilograms and kilograms of bog in it. You're just going to have to say, it's an open book and it's done when it's done. We'll maybe even figure out an hourly rate. This is your ballpark figure, you know, we'll strip it down and then we'll reassess it. And obviously everyone doesn't have a spare $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 to spend on a respray. It's as simple as that. I get it. I wouldn't be spending that kind of money on an old car. Lots of people do, and nothing against people that do have that kind of money to spend on a car, but yeah, in the real world, people sometimes just have to do what they can, do their best to go over the top of the original paint, and that's what we did. Look, there's 1 or 2 little bits of shrink back in it, big deal. To the untrained eye, and I mean 90%, like probably above 99% of the people wouldn't even see it, and they wouldn't even know what they're looking for anyway. All they'd see is a nice shiny paint job. You know, the way I also say it is, once the whole thing is looking good, and we did obviously hit all of the affected areas of the rust and then carried out our filler repairs over the entire car, so now the whole thing is one color and it looks good. if one or two little bits do shrink back, or a little bit of rust does come back in 5 years, you can just hit that spot, do a little spot repair on that part there, and then you can move on, and the whole car's still looking nice. It doesn't necessarily need what it's getting here every 5 years. It might need a little bit of attention, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 spent on the paint work in the next 5 years, but it's not necessarily going to need another 10 grand spent on it. So yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with doing this kind of work. I happily do this kind of work, and most people from the real world will totally understand and most likely have done a lot of this kind of work themselves, unless you're working in a smash shop where you're going to be just doing your average everyday automotive refinishing work. And look, I used to look at this kind of job a few years ago, and I'd say, oh man, you've gone that far, all the panels are off, why wouldn't you just go that little bit extra further to getting all the paint off as well? It's not as simple as that. It seriously is not as simple as that. I mean, if you actually I didn't even include all of the footage on this car, and I don't know why I didn't actually record it, to be honest. I'm looking back on the footage that I do have, and I'm like, yeah, I'm surprised I didn't record more of it. But anyway, I was probably too busy thinking about other things and busy working on the job to worry about recording it. But yeah, I did all the panels, and my business partner did the body on the car. And there was a little bit of the footage of what those panels look like prior to primer in the first video, and you will have noticed that, yeah, on the panels, I took most of the 1K acrylic crap off where possible, and I actually ended up getting told off for doing it. My partner's like, man, stop it, like, you're going too far, you're creating too much work. But anyway, those panels look 100 times better than what the body did. The worst part on the body was those 2/4 panels where he'd gone and done his welding in that first video. You may have remembered seeing that one as well. What ended up happening there was that he ended up warping the panels, getting them too hot. So they're obviously a straight, fairly thin panel steel. And yeah, by getting the big MIG onto it, getting those sections so hot, he's warped them, and then he's had to go and put big lots of body filler in there to fill it up to get it straight again. And because it was over the old 1K paint, it's obviously just ripped into that 1K paint, and the 2K primer just hasn't been enough to seal it down. So it comes also down to finishing that 1K off with 180 grit. I've got a feeling that because he was doing the body and primed the body up, he may not have got all of those 80 grit scratches out, which if you hang around to the very end, you'll have a look at the car when it's all finished off. I'll give you guys a look at a bit of a before and after of this car, and look, it looks $1 million. I reckon it looks totally awesome, but that doesn't mean that there's one or two things that we could have done better, and as long as we've learnt from them, known them, noted them, well then that's fine. You're halfway there, and you can stop it next time and make sure the next job's better. Shrink back is one of those things that we were able to improve later on in my time in this workshop, because working on brand new cars, when you're doing your automotive refinishing, sort of your insurance type work, you don't have to worry about it because it's all 2-pack paint, and you're all using 2-pack primers, and you don't have that old acrylic. You're not working on those old cars, so you don't really have to worry about it so much. And a big part of it is using those infrared curing lights and finishing it off with 180 grit and going over your 180 grit or finer. 240, 320, no use in going any finer than that. But if you go any much coarser than your 180 grit prior to your primer, you're probably going to get some problems. But it's one of those things that going over the top of the acrylic paint, like, some of it's worse. That's another thing I've actually found. Like, not all acrylic paint is the same. I mean, I'm no chemist. I don't know what goes inside the acrylic paints, but they're not all the same. Like, I think I've found it's the factory ones that are actually usually okay. So if you take that paint right back to the original factory paint, and then you 2-pack primer, you'll usually be okay. But it's, they've been done in some cheap, nasty jam jobs. I don't even know if it's some sort of enamel or what it is. It might be acrylic, it might not even be acrylic. As much as a bit of shrink back is a pain in the ass, it's not going to kill anyone. It never has killed anyone. It's just been a little bit of an eyesore, and at the end of the day, you most likely won't be able to see it from a few meters away. Again, as I say, it's one of those things that unless it's real big time over the entire car, if it's just one or two spots, you might be able to improve it with a little bit of a flatten off and polish, but I'm not going to guarantee that. Like, we had this Mini that we had really bad shrink back. I must admit, we had some really bad shrink back. We did our best to try and, you know, lower the possibilities of it happening. But then my business partner, Dan, at the end of the job, he goes, oh, we'll just flatten it off and polish it up. And I'm like, man, seriously, it's going to make it look worse. And sure enough, he just couldn't. He wouldn't listen to me. He didn't want to. He just, you know, obviously he's trying to make it look as good as he can. And I get that, but actually ended up making it look worse. Because rather than having a bit of orange peel, it's a bit of a texture on the finish, you know. I'm not saying big, thick orange peel that it had. It just had a bit of a fine orange peel over the panel. But then what his idea was to sand it all back dead flat and then polish it up. I'm like, man, you might make it look good for a day. Next day you'll come back in and it'll be back, but it'll actually look worse because it's over a dead flat panel, so everything is going to be showing up on it. And sure enough, I was right, and it did end up looking worse. So yeah, sometimes you may be able to improve it a little bit with a polish, but as I say, just be careful not to go and take that thing right back to no orange peel and get sort of flat spots. Maybe just try and knock the very top off it, give it a quick buff without generating too much heat, because heat is another thing that will actually start to make that acrylic paint move. So, you know, this paint job, like straight off the gun here, it looked fine, there was no shrink back in it, but you wait for a week, you put it out in the sun, you put it back in the workshop, and that heat is still moving all that acrylic paint underneath, and then the shrink back's going to come back. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make excuses for the shrink back. At the end of the day, it's the customer's decision that they want to go that way about the job. I don't feel I need to justify it to you guys, and I'm not even ashamed that a bit of shrink back does happen on a couple of these jobs. It's just what it is. It is what it is. If I get a run, I'm happy to show you guys. If I get a few bits of dust in my paintwork, so what, you know, whatever. Yeah, it's just a bit of orange peel here and there. If you've got to flatten that off, it's painting. Like, we're not perfect. We're not robots, you know. And yeah, even painting, even the environment and the materials that you're using greatly will change the kind of finishes that you get. Put a good painter in a bad environment and you'll see if he really is a good painter, if he can adapt to those conditions. And I have worked with guys before who keep telling you how good they are, but then their results are subpar. They say, oh, it's the workshop, it's the booth, it's this paint system, it's this, that, the other. They've always got an excuse for it, but where are the results? That's what my old boss said. He said, excuses are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, but we're looking for results. And to be honest, I'm actually pretty happy with how this one did come up. It came up pretty nice. Unfortunately, we didn't actually finish the car off for him. It would have been nice to have been able to do that. But this shop here, don't forget, it is just 2 spray painters. So if we can stick to our specific trade at this point, it just made sense, you know. And it also made sense for some of the customers too. It's like, well, they can save a few bucks on the remove and refit. You know, we might have taken a few parts off. We only really put the doors back on, hang the doors back on. He can get his engine put back in. He can do the refitting. Look, these are pretty simple cars to put back together too. All you need is a basic toolkit and half a brain. You'll be able to sort out how to get the doors and most of those panels back on. But there you go. There's a little bit of a run which I got there. Obviously gave that a sand and polish out. That was no major big deal at all. And this is a bit of a before and after for you guys. So this is what it looked like at the very start. Those who may have missed the first video, but yeah, it was in, you know, pretty average condition. There was quite a fair bit of rust around the one of those front firewall sections, which Dan sorted out there. He ground it out, welded a few sections in. He loves doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the finished result. So you can see around this quarter panel here, we've got a bit of killer shrink back there. I guess it's not too bad, you know. If I didn't zoom up and tell you guys about it, it probably wouldn't have really stood out. But it was just around those sections where he welded, and yeah, just the amount of filler and maybe just finishing it off a little bit too coarse before primer, or even between coats of filler. So say if you sanded it down with 80 grit and then just slapped some more filler in, well then that filler could be even shrinking back on itself. The color did definitely grow on me, and if you guys would like to know it, it was painted in the Metalux range, and the color chip number was EB03290. Now, as I made a mention in the previous video, I think the Metalux range has actually since gone under. so you may not even ever be able to find that color. This could be quite a unique car. Yeah, we were making jokes the whole time when we were painting this car. We'll have to give him a violet crumble or a block of Cadbury Dairy Milk when we give his car back to him, because it is just about the same color as the Cadbury's. But yeah, all in all, I reckon it looks awesome. This was after spending the best part of a day polishing it up. Yep, there's a few ripples in it. Yep, it's not 100% perfect, but I reckon it looks mad. And it would definitely be great to get a few pics off the owner, but once he picked it up, we never saw him again. So yeah, I'm still in contact with Dan, and I'm sure he'll be posting some pics up on his own Facebook page if he does ever see it again when it's finished off. So I'll make sure I pinch them and share them with you guys either on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video series. There's the Gunman, enjoying a rare beer. It is quite rare that I do drink these days, but after finishing this car, I just felt like I needed to celebrate. So I had a Cooper's Clear was the name of the beer, and Gunny had a grin from ear to ear. Make sure you check out my website, thegunman.net.au. I've got links to all my social media in the description of this video below. Now you've seen this video, get out there and paint some shit. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.